There were multiple developments today connected to the ongoing investigation into possible connections between the Trump campaign and Russian officials. The Washington Post reports that special counsel Robert Mueller plans to question President Trump about why he fired former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and former FBI Director James Comey. This hours after the Department of Justice confirmed that Attorney General Jeff Sessions faced questions just last week. Here's Jeffrey Brown now to help piece together what we know.
The Attorney General is the first Trump cabinet member to sit down with Robert Mueller's team that we know of. We also learned today that former FBI Director James Comey was questioned by the special counsel's office last year. The New York Times reported that this afternoon, and the paper's Washington investigations editor Mark Mazzetti joins me now. So, Mark, we have Attorney General Sessions last week. We have James Comey last year. What does this tell us, if anything, about the state of the probe?
Well, it certainly says that Mueller's team is looking pretty closely at this question of obstruction of justice. Did President Trump, since he took office, try to impede the ongoing FBI investigation into Russia and later the investigation taken over by Mueller? Did he try to impede it with regards to Michael Flynn? Did he try to impede it when he fired James Comey? And so Sessions and, of course, Comey himself would be critical witnesses to try to answer these questions. But it's not just the obstruction issue. Recall that Sessions was also a key campaign advisor for Donald Trump. And so the question of was there any collusion, what was the extent of contacts with the Russians, Sessions would also be able to speak to that question.
He was a key campaign advisor in foreign affairs specifically.
That's right, and he sort of ran the foreign affairs team, a team that has several members that have already been examined by Mueller and the FBI because of their contacts with the Russians. George Papadopoulos, Carter Page, Flynn himself. Sessions was running that group, and there were key meetings in the spring and summer of 2016 that Mueller would want to ask Sessions about.
There's also, as Judy said earlier, the new reports that Mr. Mueller wants to talk to President Trump. Do we know anything more about timing?
You know, these reports have come out in the last few weeks that Mueller, in the coming weeks and months, will want to talk to Trump. Obviously, we knew he would. The new report today in the Post was that it would be, or could come in a matter of a few weeks. That's certainly very interesting. It would certainly indicate that Mueller is beginning to, perhaps wrap up the investigation, because Trump would, in normal circumstances, be the last witness. You would want to interview the president last because he would be, you might only get one shot of this.
Yeah.
But this isn't normal time, so I don't want to make any predictions. But certainly, he would want to ask President Trump about the obstruction question, about the Flynn and Comey issues, as we just discussed. He'd want to ask about any possible collusion. There would be any number of things to talk to the president about, and the president and his legal team would obviously want to have their ducks in a row before that happened.
Another development here is the reports that the Attorney General has been pressuring FBI Director Christopher Wray to fire his deputy, Andrew McCabe, and further that the FBI Director has threatened to resign himself if the pressure doesn't stop. What do we know or not know about all this?
It's unclear whether Wray actually did threaten to resign, but there's no question there has been this tension, in part because Wray was put in after Comey was fired, and yet he inherited a lot of Comey's team. The White House and the Attorney General Sessions have sort of made no secret about the fact that they thought Comey and his team were partisan and, to some degree, corrupt. So the question of how much Wray should clean house at the FBI has been a point of tension, and certainly Wray would want to, at some point, put his own team in place. I think the question of the pace at which he did that and how much pressure from above to fire Comey aides, that's really the issue. And the backdrop of this, of course, is overriding tension between President Trump and the FBI. President Trump has made no secret about the fact that he thinks the rank and file of the FBI and the senior leadership has been very partisan and against him.
No secret. That's continued. Mark Mazzetti of the New York Times, thanks very much.
Thank you.